Hey everybody, Larry, Fort Worth Memories Museum and Group, and all of our family of groups. I'm here. It's 10 o'clock on Tuesday. It's Hometown Heroes. Rick Irving, and I think Mary is not with us
Mary's
today.
not with us today.
And you've got a couple of guests here.
We do indeed. We have Maria and Phil Alvarado. And many people know Phil.
Yes.
The first time I saw him, I thought, I know that guy. But you spent 33 years in broadcasting at Channel 4.
Channel 4, yeah.
Okay. And Maria, she is the mother of Rick Beretta. He was a DFW airport officer that was killed in the line of duty February 14th, 1997.
Correct.
Okay. And this February 14th, it's going to be 26 years.
26.
Okay. I know that last year, I was blessed to be with you that day on the 25th anniversary, and I was amazed at the way the DFW Police Department did and the way that the community did to remember Rick on that day, because we started out with a nice memorial service at the headquarters for the DFW Airport Police Department, and then we went to Highway where Rick was killed, and we had a little memorial service there. Then we went to the cemetery, and then we went to Rick's favorite restaurant and ended the day having lunch. So just kind of tell us your how your journey began. So
Well, thank you for having us here today. And we, like you said, we appreciate DFW Airport, our family, because they have been very, very supportive, and it's just a real blessing to have that support. It's important. A lot of departments, that's what they strive to do is don't let this officer be forgotten, and help the families along the way. And after Rick was killed, it was a time where I could either get stuck and on memories or do something. And I know that my son would want me to. He had a personality, quick wit, and he was just very vocal about a lot of things. And so I knew that there was something that I needed to do to remember. And so I researched, and after working with family survivors that had lost an officer, I researched and found that there was a need for our injured as well, because they were still here and they needed us.
Sure.
And so that was how Peace Officers Angels Foundation got started. And we use the word peace officer because it's not just police, it's city, state, and county. And so we assist all three.
Yeah, and I don't know if you mentioned, but we assist all peace officers, licensed peace officers, and throughout the state of Texas. So it's a big area. I mean, obviously, but we have field support reps, most of them police officers from different departments, and they let us know, sometimes about the injuries that occur in their areas that maybe we don't hear about, and so that's how we're able to cover the whole state. And of course, DFW is a huge metropolitan area, so it's not surprising that a lot of the people, the officers, peace officers that we assist, are from this area. I mean, of course, Houston, San Antonio are big areas, big metropolitan areas. So, and they both have big departments. And but one of the things that Maria always stresses is that there's some smaller departments that don't have the resources, and not that they don't care about their officers or they don't want to support them when they're hurt. I mean, they just can't do as much as, say, Fort Worth or Dallas, and we find that most departments are pretty supportive, except there's there's a limit that they can do.
Sure.
And we try and step in and provide, some financial assistance, but, I think someone said that, Maria especially, she carries every officer we've ever assisted, and she carries them in her heart, and, it's not just, send a check and say, okay, who's next, or I hope it doesn't happen again. It's, we keep up with those officers, Maria does especially, and she can talk about that in a minute, but, we find that so many of the officers that we assist, once they're better and healed and back at work, that they want to give back. We see so many of them at our fundraisers, so many of them that, that hold their own fundraisers and just promote, Peace Officers Angels Foundation, which we call POAF because, and anyway, so they provide that support for us.
One thing that I've kind of learned over the years, because I've come to some of your events over the years, is learning more about what you do, because I just thought that it was just for the fallen police or the peace officers at first, and then I started seeing that you help those really in a lot of the smaller communities. In Dallas and Fort Worth, we have Dallas and Fort Worth, but we have a multitude of other police departments and fire departments in the Metroplex, and you reach out to those smaller departments because often whenever an officer's injured, especially Fort Worth and Dallas, or Arlington even, they have a lot of support, especially right at first. And then, they have fundraisers. But you go to those smaller communities like Sampson Park. We did a benefit. It was right at the end of November, the 1st of December, I believe. And we had a pretty good turnout. A lot of the smaller departments had representatives there. And we were raising money for the police officer that had gotten shot in the face over in Forest Hill in a training accident. So she was a Sampson Park police officer. But those families, they have a lot of expense when something like
Sure.
that happens because they're at the hospital. Some of them can't work. They have meals they need to provide, and then the ongoing care and things like that. So that's been good. And I know that whenever you had your awards banquet, that you were able to even donate some more money to the family then. So, and I was really impressed with your awards banquet, because it was nice, and you recognized all the great people that support you, and Sheriff Wayborn, he was the Peace Officer of the Year, I think, and then
Christopher Cook.
Okay, Christopher Cook.
And,
Okay.
and Officer Alejandro from Mansfield,
Okay.
and our third was Jimmy Polizani.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, Rick, it's when you covered 254 counties. That was the primary reason why I know it was brazen to say, we're going to cover 254, but you're right. Those small departments, what happens when one of them is injured? They don't have the GoFundMe. They don't have that amount of community support, those resources, and that's the primary reason why we thought, let's go ahead and help those small departments. They might have 2 or 3 on staff. What happens when one of them is injured? They go through the same hurt. They go through the same journey that any officer does, and it's not just the emotional part, or the financial part. There's a lot that goes with it, and it involves the whole family.
It does.
The whole family goes through that journey with them.
And you mentioned our good friend Jimmy Polizani. I mean, he's everywhere,
Yeah.
but he's a great supporter of your organization. I know that we have a lot of the Dining for Heroes
Yes.
events at his restaurant, Cafe Republic, and you've got another one coming up this Friday at our place in Mansfield on Debbie Lane. And those are kind of unique too, because you see the chiefs and the Bill Wayborn, he's there a lot, and a lot of the chiefs, Department of Public Safety, the DPS troopers, they're there serving the people. So
Yeah, and it's of course, it's a fundraiser, but, you know, as we always say, I mean, the biggest benefit is that, you know, officers and the public, you know, that they serve, people, you know, they get to meet on a different basis. I mean, and I don't mean just, you don't meet an officer when you get pulled over for a ticket. I mean, you meet officers all the time, and you see them all the time, but a lot of times you don't have a chance to interact with them as much. And, you know, when an officer comes to you, you know, in full uniform, but with an apron, and he's serving you water or coffee or tea or whatever you're drinking, and many times we get so many officers that, because they love doing it, you know. Anyway, so a lot of times we get so many officers that volunteer, and you think, you know, wow, this is too many, but, you know, you have more than enough, because when an officer goes to a table, he's usually going to spend 10-15 minutes there because people want to talk to him. And so, you know, everybody's pretty busy, you know. I mean, we had one event in Grand Prairie, you know, and one of the officers from Grand Prairie, I mean, before he became an officer, he actually worked in a restaurant, and he used to check people out and things like that. So he even took over the cash register. I mean, that's how much they love. I mean, it's so different one that they normally do, and it's about the interaction. I mean, they want to meet people, you know, on a different
Different level, yeah.
So, but you know, and we have so many Dining for Heroes now that I mean, they keep growing, of course, and it's a lot of work. I mean, but and you know, but it's worth it.
Who schedules all the officers? How do you do that?
I usually, now we do have our coordinator, Officer Joe Bam Alejandro from Mansfield, that coordinates. And a lot of these that are now taking place, for example, we have the chief of police in Forney, Kerry White, that just reached out and said, we want to have a Dining for Heroes in Forney. And then Constable Chad Davis in Granbury, I want to have a Dining for Heroes over here. Bridgeport, we have one in Rome. So all these chiefs, all these officers, they know, you know, what it brings. They know that it's a great cohesiveness with the community and the officers. And so they want to have these Dining for Heroes. And we always say, you know, of course we need the funds, but like Phil said, just the interaction with the officers, you know, trading their badge for an apron is what we say. You know, the community spirit that we do things with. So it's a great program, but we also have other programs with our Christmas Angel program, where we raise funds to our initial check that we send at the time they're injured. Then in December, we know that these families might have 3 or 4 children, and they're still on 60% of their pay, you know, workman's comp. So we send another check during Christmas, and that's what you saw with Officer Reno.
Okay.
Yes, and so we have that, and then we also have our Coins for Cops program, and this is where what we want to do is include the whole family, because you know, it's the whole nucleus of the family that, you know, is part of this journey. So we have the children that love to drop their pennies in those jugs, the Coins for Cops jugs, and so they feel in their heart they're giving to these officers that are injured, and it's a great feeling. So we do that at schools. We promote that. Anyone that wants to take one to their business, we encourage that, because a lot of companies will have it by the register, and people just drop in their change, and you'd be surprised how it adds up.
It adds up, yeah.
It does. It adds up.
And you have the parents or adults, I mean, whether they have children with them or not, I mean, they like to contribute, and they contribute in larger denominations, and that, you know, we certainly appreciate that. and that's why it helps to add up, and, you know, um, you know, we have T-shirts and things like that we sell at these events, and like I said, it all adds up, and, you know, sometimes it seems like you're just staying, you know, one step ahead of the next one, but, you know, I mean, I think Maria can remember the early days, because I was still working, and she was putting this together, but, I mean, she said, well, we have we have a foundation, but we got no money, and she said, well, here, let me write you a check for what, $25 or something like that, and really, that's how it started, and
Yeah, I kept telling them, I want to go to the bank and start this organization. Somebody needs to give us the money. So Cheryl Nix, she lost her son in Dallas, Mark Nix, and she said, well, Maria, I can write a check for $25. I said, I can go to the bank. I said, and that's, you know, that's how it started. But we, you know, it's a lot of praying, but we're blessed. We're blessed because
Yes.
a lot of people understand that, you know, we are nonprofit. No one gets paid. Board members, volunteers, it's all just, you know, a passion to assist our officers. So that's what we go on, and it's a blessing because a lot of people do understand the need now for these officers that are injured. It's not just you know, it might happen. No, it's going to happen, and that's not ever going to go away. But neither are we.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
And you mentioned your board members. You have a good group of board members, and we had one of their board members on our show, Alicia Bradford. She was the
Yeah.
Arlington police
Yes.
detective,
Yes.
and she's very involved. And you have, tell us about your board.
Yes, we have Lieutenant Deidre Bundick. She's with Denton Women's University. Very kind-hearted. She is always talking about POAF with everybody that she meets. And then, like you said, Alicia, detective with Arlington PD. That smile of hers just lights up a room, and she's very.
She's
very,
contagious. I
And
mean,
she works with children, and I was impressed with her a lot.
Yes.
She
And
yes.
she's
just got-
also on the mounted unit.
and she's got that personality that you just
Yeah.
fall in love with. So.
And honor guard also.
Yes.
So she's got a lot, and we're very fortunate to have her on our board. Then we have a friend of mine that's been a friend for over 50 years, and that's Melanie Wayburn.
And she's somehow related to Bill.
Yes.
So.
Her husband is
It's Bill's cousin or
cousin.
something. Yeah.
And of course, I'm just so lucky to have him. He didn't know it, but he had a job waiting for him when he retired. He thought he was going to retire and go fishing every day, but no, he really does help a lot. And a lot of our officers' stories, like we talked about, I love their attitude. Like Phil mentioned, all they want to do is get back to their calling. Either they chose that career or it chose them, and take care of their families. Because really, when you think about it, that's what officers are. Just, you know, part of our community.
Sure they are.
Raising their families
Sure.
next to us, and all they want to do is go back and provide for their families
And come home safe every night.
and be safe. Yes, exactly.
And you know, it's so delightful to see couples like you and Phil team up to work together to run an organization. I mean, that's very admirable. I just
I agree.
appreciate that so much that you can do that. And I mean, you're the president of the organization now, so. But y'all complement each other, and that's special. Let's back up a little bit and let's talk about Rick, your son. Okay, because how old was he whenever
He was 26.
26 years old, and he had a daughter, I think.
Yes, she's a doctor in Phoenix, and Cammie also is a teacher in New Mexico.
Okay.
And then his wife is a doctor in Scottsdale.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and Brittany was able to come for
Yeah.
the 25th anniversary. Yes, she was there and her family was there.
And
And
your daughter, she works with your organization too, doesn't she? Or
oh,
she
I
just worked
bring
for
them all
mom?
in. Yeah, my son, is a veteran, Iraqi veteran, and my dad was a World War II veteran. And it's surprising how a lot of our officers are veterans. We have
Sure.
a high percentage of officers that are veterans, and so we, yeah, it's a sort of a family. We do include our family helping us when they can, and we appreciate all the volunteer hours that individuals will contribute, and we can't do this alone. We know that. You know, we need the community, we need the sponsors, the donations, and Phil works with our website, and we appreciate everything. My scripture that I go by is Proverbs 3:27, and that's do not withhold anything from anyone when it's in your power to help them. And it's so true, because everybody has something that they can give.
Yes.
They do. So, Rick, he was a motorcycle officer
So, yeah, SWAT.
at SWAT, and it was just a normal day. I mean, it was just, he just made a traffic stop and during the day, and somebody wasn't paying attention and hit him.
There was someone that kind of jumped the curb and was on his lane, and the other two were occupied, so he didn't have any place to go. So he hit the back of
Hmm.
a shuttle van and severed his brainstem.
That's I've been in the detail business forever, and one of my big accounts way back on Lancaster was a guy named J.C. Fletcher. He also owned the Richelieu Bar and Grill downtown. His son Randy Fletcher was on the West Loop, on the East-West Freeway, out there kind of where Kev Jay-Z was, and he had stopped. He was a motors cop and stopped to help a lady change a tire, and drunk driver, or they guessed they never did catch him, and that was way back.
And before you started the Peace Officers Angel Foundation, you were involved in another organization,
Right.
and you worked in that organization for many years before you started the Peace Officers Angel Foundation. But you know, I see a lot of people, not a lot of them, but I see people like Terry Burgess. He was one of our first guests. He's a Gold Star dad, and he and his wife Elizabeth, they started the Gold Star Parents Retreat, so Gold Star parents could go together and kind of have a time, you know, to be together, to not really heal, but just to go through their journey. And here you took something, a very tragic thing in your life, and you were able to turn something good, you know, into it by creating this foundation to help other people. So,
Yeah, and you know, I was still working at the time, and, you know, when Maria was involved, you know, with the fallen, and, you know, and we'll always be survivors. I mean, we always recognize, we always remember the fallen. I mean, you know, they're, how well we know, they're not coming back.
yeah.
And, but, you know, Maria saw the need, but my point was that, you know, when I was still working, I mean, every time, of course, we covered all the officer funerals and things like that when we were the fallen officer. And so, you know, there we'd be standing at the curb, and Maria would arrive because she was part of the organization, and that, you know, that helped survivors, families, you know, and you know, we just saw each other so many times that way, and Maria finally said, you know, she goes, look, you know, I recognize this other need, and, you know, I'm gonna make a transition, and she said, you know, I'll always be a survivor. And as kind of another insight as to how she made that change, and she started noticing, these officers are, and they are coming home, but they're going home to their families broken and with, a lot less income. And, let's face it, part of an officer's income is the off-duty jobs. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the way that's the way their system is set up. And the cities know that that most cities recognize that, an officer's salary isn't like a teacher's salary, isn't, you don't become an officer to get rich, but you make ends meet, you provide for your family by doing everything you can. And then they can't do that extra. And so that's why they need that assistance, and that's why they're important.
What other kind of fundraisers do you have during the year besides the dining for
we have,
heroes?
with the Texas Rangers, we've had a
Okay.
partnership with them for about 8-9 years now, and we sell tickets. We have it was Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and it was changed to First Responders. So what we raise in ticket sales, we split with this other organization, but we look forward to that, not just for the funds that we raise, but this gives an opportunity for our injured officers to be able to throw that first pitch.
Yeah,
And that is something money can't buy. It's a memory for them and their families that they get to cherish, And that's why, the pregame activities are just something that they really like. We get an officer that, and we canvas, does this officer, you have an officer in your department that can sing, has a good voice, then they sing the national anthem with everybody there. And or God Bless America at the 7th inning, and then we usually have honor guard, and it's a way to include a lot of departments. It's not just one department doing everything. It's a way to include a lot of our North Texas, and they're so proud. And we have, again, city, state, and county with their patches on there, and they get to go out on the field. And then we have a video that Phil puts together, and during that second video we can of course relay our message and be able to tell folks, hey, we're here, we stand with these officers and we want you to stand with us. So it's a very good way to, like I said, not just raise funds, but be able to have these injured officers.
the camaraderie of it is,
Yes, yes, and that brotherhood is just, and that's why we want to find a way to have maybe a ranch somewhere where all our injured officers can come together. We may not understand that brotherhood, but they do. It's important for them to get together and talk about their injuries or whatever they want to talk about. So, and then we can't forget our spouses either. So they're the ones that take care of our
Sure,
injured officers, and they lose their job because they have to stay home and care for him or her injured officer. So we want to have a spouses retreat where they have a voice that needs to be heard as well.
sure they do.
So it's good to have something for them.
Because so many organizations, a lot of times they just focus in on the person that's hurt or the person that's has the issue, and not so much the family or the caretakers, because that caretaking, that's a 24/7 job.
Yeah.
And one officer that was at the awards banquet was, I think, from San Marcos,
Oh,
and
yes.
she was an amputee, and she got injured I guess by a car or something. Is that
Yes,
what happened?
yes.
But she's back to duty, isn't she? So,
Yes, she is.
and was her husband an officer too? I don't.
Yes,
Okay.
Jason is an officer
Okay.
also as
I
well.
didn't remember their whole story, but I was really impressed with her because, she had suffered a tremendous loss, and she had a prosthetic, and she's back at full duty. So
And that's what Phil wrote, a story about another officer from Wichita Falls, and it's not necessarily how it happened, when it happened, it's how they come back.
yeah,
Sure.
It's how they come back.
Yeah, and the story she's talking about, what wasn't when I was working, it's a story that we wrote specifically about this officer for our Facebook, POEF Facebook page. And, we're trying to do more of that and, put out a newsletter that we're, trying to build together. And anyway, but one of the things you mentioned, the officer from San Marcos, and we actually just saw her, a few days ago when we went to the retirement of an officer who also was an amputee. He was shot so bad in his arm that he lost his arm. That's how severe the shootings were. And so she was just down the road, but this was in the Bronx, I think. Anyway, and one of the things that the officer who was retiring mentioned, and then she got up to say something, and she pointed out that that even though you see them and said, oh good, they're, it's tragic that they lost an arm or that they lost a leg, but they've got their prosthetic, they've got their lives back, and they're back at work, but one of the things that they emphasize is that it's what you don't see. It's still a challenge every single morning when they get up. Just and you gotta put that prosthetic on. You gotta see that you don't have a limb anymore, and and then there's pain involved. After a while, and those are the kinds of things that even those of us who support them and want to help them and do help them, don't get to see, and that has to always be in the back of your mind.
just because they have a prosthetic doesn't mean that their life's a breeze anymore. I'm on the board of directors for a foundation called Freedom Mobility Foundation, and we help amputees and paraplegics and people with mobility issues, first responders and veterans. We supply different kinds of mobility equipment. But one thing we do, we have partnered with North Texas Patriot Anglers, and we take some of our amputees and some of our paraplegics trout fishing up at Broken Bow. And so we have these guys that come up for a couple of days, but it's you see them out there. I mean, this ground I can't hardly walk on, and they're got a prosthetic, and they're just going all over the place. But at the end of the day, when we go back to the lodge, all you see is a bunch of prosthetic legs laying around because those are painful,
Yeah.
But that's one of the first things they do. A lot of them is, they've been on them all day. They take them off to kind of give themselves a break. But yeah, you're right. Just because they appear, back to full duty and normal, they still have a lot of issues that we don't have to
Sure.
have. So
And that's the thing too. I mean, both of them said, every morning, what people don't see, and it's still a challenge every day, and they accept that challenge, and that's why they seem to excel at certain things that some of us that are like you said, it's I have to walk down this trail again, and somebody else is going down that trail with a prosthetic leg or something, and it's because they've accepted that challenge, they've made themselves better.
yeah, because there's for every one of those people that we see that have overcome a lot of challenges, there's hundreds, if not thousands, that just give up. I had a friend that he lost a leg and he never walked again. I mean, he was, he wasn't old, but he could have gone and gone through all the therapy, but he had a kind of an accident on his crutches, so he just stayed in a wheelchair. But it's all in the way that they, the self-motivation, the inspiration that they have, because these people really inspire me to be around them, to see how well they've overcome, their injuries. So
And that's what we tell them, whenever you have the departments officer that's been injured, stay in touch with them.
Sure.
Don't just assume that someone else is doing it. It's so important to contact them, to visit them, to see, go mow their yard or go do something, because that officer, it helps them, through their journey, and that's what we hear from a lot of officers. It's important that they stay in touch, because oftentimes they're just forgotten too.
Yeah, the support is what they need to keep them going too.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
Especially if they aren't going to be able to come back to duty.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
it's like, let's not forget those people. And that's something that you do. I know you stay in contact with a lot of people. You're a busy person.
I do stay busy, and one of the things that we have talked about is maybe having a calendar. We've been kind of kicking that around with our officer stories, and let folks know, what some of these officers have gone through, and it's just important that. At the banquet, that's why I always say, whether the accident happened 20 years ago or 20 minutes ago, that officer deserved, either he or her that had been injured in the line of duty, deserved to be recognized and honored and respected
sure they
for
do.
their service, for what they have done. The hours, the holidays that they miss with their families, just the risk that they take putting on that belt and going out there. There's evil everywhere, and they do this, and their families, sometimes suffer. Their sacrifices that they have with their hours, with their, like I said, their holidays and times.
Sure.
It's so important to be able to, for us to just support, and it's the greatest gift we can give them, is to not just because you're injured we're going to forget about you, and you're on your own. No, they hurt just like everyone else, and they need us to be there, not just say we pray for you and we love you. No, there's more that you can do. There's a lot more that all of us can do for them.
Well, we all want to feel wanted and cared about.
Exactly.
I mean, that's human nature. So, and just because they were injured, they're in our community and they're in our hearts, and we need to show them that. And their families are really, the family, especially if they have young children, it's hard for them to understand what's going on.
And it's when we say writing stories or talking about these officers, staying in touch with these officers, of course these are people that that want that. Some people don't, and that's fine. But there are officers that say, I'm in a hospital bed, bandaged up. Sure, put me up on the jumbotron at the Rangers. Put me on your brochure. Put me on your website. And it's because and you're looking at one right there. I mean, it's because they want to spread the public awareness. It's like you need not just about POAF, but I mean it's just that people need to know that that there's this need and that we're out there, and of course other officers recognize that, but to the events like the Dining for Heroes and the Texas Rangers first responders games, and some of the things that you get to learn and notice is how much community support there really is out there for, it's something that maybe people individually wouldn't express. I mean, because maybe they have no reason to, but as a group, I mean, they see the event and they recognize the officers and they really embrace the cause of them.
One officer, the officer that spoke at the awards banquet, he was a motorcycle officer. and he was chasing somebody or something, and something came off a truck and caused him to have a very serious wreck. I forgot how many bones he broke, but he was in
Almost
bad.
every bone in his
I
body.
know. I couldn't believe because he started. He had this whole list of things that, but he was such an inspiration to, because they had a video kind of showing his recovery, and it was months and months of surgeries and recovery. And is he back to full duty now?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, he's
Okay.
back, and that's another thing that all our officers here, you won't be able to walk, you won't be able to go back to work, you won't be able, and and they do, they work hard, and they go through all that physical therapy, they go through all of that hard work to get back to what they are, and a lot of times people don't understand that a lot of the psychological injuries can hurt more than their physical injuries.
Sure.
Because we don't know what they go through. We have an idea, and that's why, we want to, like Phil put it one time, is, have that growth of, where we can, how did you explain
Well,
it?
it's,
That we hold on to.
Yeah, you've got to throw them a lifeline. I'm not talking about money or just, us as an organization, but, when they see that people, appreciate what they've done and what they're doing, and, it's a lifeline to them. I mean, that, figuratively, but just knowing that people care, that's, that you're not out there by yourself, and, you mentioned the officer who was, the speaker. I was still working, and I remember covering, when he left the hospital, and he said then, because I'm going to heal and I'm going to come back, because I'm going to do everything I was doing before. And, but, you could feel it in the room. People were going like, that's the spirit, reach for the moon, but a lot of people thought, no, that's
Not possible.
that's not possible. And he is. You saw him in the room, and giving the talk, and he was very open about showing, X-rays and things like that.
We're just eating dinner, and some people probably thinking, this isn't very appetizing to see these pictures.
But he showed the extent of his injuries, and so you appreciated much more, what he really came back from.
Yeah, and you went away knowing a lot more, by seeing. And visual, of course, is so important. And, we just, I just admire these officers, their heart, it's just amazing. It's just amazing what they go through and come through at the end.
And one thing I want to mention, before we run out of time, is that, even though you have so many of the officers who want to give back and do, and are very, interested in spreading the word and participating and helping with the fundraising and everything else, there's so many off, and, when you start to give a list or something like that, you're going to leave somebody off, but, you mentioned the police chiefs and everything else show up to these Dining for Heroes, and they throw on aprons, and DPS is there, the sheriff's people, police, from every department, and but then there's people like Dan Alejandro from Mansfield. He puts our Dining for Heroes together. You've got Chris Cook. He's now the chief at White Settlement. Was one of the assistant deputy chiefs in Arlington. His wife Gigi, she happens to be our public affairs person, but she does public affairs for Mansfield PD. And of course, the sheriff Bill Wayburn, and all of these. We have a lot of community support. Well, we have a lot of police support. And that's really, when they want to lend their name to, an organization, it's because they believe in it, and so, and that helps us a lot, so. And, some of these people, I can't stress enough how much they do for us, so.
And Bill Wayburn, Sheriff Raymond was our president for a couple of years.
Was he?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he was. But I know everybody says, you're asking the busiest man on the planet, because I think that was just before, when he was campaigning, I said, oh, maybe that was a wrong thing to do. But he's, a man of his word. He, I love the family, the way he, instills the family in everything. And he said, I'll do it. And it was really, really great to have him join us, and that's what POAF has come to be, I think, throughout the state. It's, we're loyal to our injured officers, we're loyal to our law enforcement, men and women, and that's why we recognize those that had been injured back in 20 years back.
That's right.
I had them, and they were like, why are you inviting us, and it's because I wanted, a lot of times they didn't get that recognition. Their department said, you can't be a full-time, then we're going to fire you. And, or they asked for help and they were denied. And so they had to leave the department. And those 5 people that were there had been injured in the line of duty, but again, so far back that organizations like POAF did not exist. And they had been going through, they had to go through that alone. And I just wanted to let them know, how much we appreciate them.
Yeah, and I tell you, when you start a list, you're going to leave somebody out. I also want to mention Jimmy Palazzani, of course, our friend from Fort Worth PD. And, I'm sure there's many more out there. If they listen and say,
Jimmy's
"What about
great.
me?" Yeah, I said, what about me? But,
No, it is. I mean, we have so many volunteers, so many people that, whether they give an hour or, a week's time, a year, they come and go, but everyone we know has a special gift. And, if you want to be able to help us with what we do, then we welcome that and we appreciate that so much.
Because it's not always about the funds or the money, but it's about, the people that can provide, expertise in building a website or doing something, setting up tables.
Everybody can help.
There's so many
somehow.
people that work in the background that we don't
Right.
ever see, that are just back there working their heart out, and they don't do it for any recognition. It's just, they just pour themselves out, because if you recognize them, then they don't talk about me.
All right.
But how many officers right now are you in contact with that you're helping?
Oh, that we're assisting
Right now, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'd say, well, we stay in touch with everybody, but I think all the officers that were there that you saw, the Haltom City officers, the 3 that were shot
That's
serving the
right.
warrant.
How are they doing?
They're
What-
doing
doing
great.
good?
They're doing great. It's a lot, again, rehabilitation, physical therapy. Then we had our motorcycle officer trophy club that was there. And then, of course, Claudia, that was there from San Marcos.
I think Matt Brazil, the
And
Fort Worth
Matt,
officer, he
Fort
was
Worth.
in 2020. He was out on West Loop 820, and the police were having a chase, and he was going to throw the strips out, and the guy just aimed for him and hit him.
Purposely.
And it's been,
And he was supposed
Yeah.
to be there, but he was in Oklahoma doing some training, so he wasn't able to be there. But
and he's
Matt was-
working hard to get back.
Oh
So.
yes. So yeah, we like I said, like to stay in touch with all of our officers and their families, and it's a lot. We have chaplains. I forgot to mention that we're trying to build a database with our chaplains, because we know that we're just civilians, you know, at a hospital, they're not gonna say, oh, you can go back there with them, but our chaplains have that,
Sure.
you know, can go and talk to our injured officers and let them know about us when they're feeling better, and give them our brochure and talk to them. So eventually we want to be able to help, to have all 254 counties, I mean, completely covered. And then the Star of Texas Award by the governor, we always let our officers know, hey, you know, you submit that application, you deserve that recognition by the governor for the Star of Texas. So I'll make sure that they know all of that. We send a letter, we send a box when we send a check. We also send a box, a thin blue line blanket, a book from Gil Martin, FBI, that helps them go through the injury part, and then we have what they love. And Rick, I'm telling you, every officer, that's what I hear. We have children's cards, and that's the first thing they say. You know, not thank you for the check or that. Thank you for the cards from the children. It lifted my spirit so much while I was laying here in this hospital, because as we know, children are innocent. They're gonna just speak from their heart, and they love those cards from the children, and we always send those as well, and they're very well received.
And you said something about the thin blue line. That just reminded me that I usually see y'all at Mike Rumfeld's Thin Blue Line Gala every year, and that's a great gala, great organization, and because they recognize the survivors of the officers that are fallen, and then that, you know, they had that horse one year. I don't know if they had it this last year, but horse comes and kneels. It's just a beautiful ceremony.
It's very, very.
But there's so many organizations like your organization that's out there to help our peace officers, and we've been at the bottom of our ticker here. You know, we've had your website there. Is there a donation button on that website?
It's pof.org.
Okay.
And you can just go to pof, pof.org/donate. So so you don't have to navigate the website if you don't want to. And that usually takes you to PayPal. And there's a little bit of information on there. And just to be specific, I mean, it says submit. And when you submit your information, but be sure and hit the yellow donate button,
Yeah,
and that will complete your donation. But and a lot of people do that. That's how we get a lot of our donations as people become more aware.
And a lot of people donate in memory of their loved ones. We recently got one that passed away, and she knew that her husband supported law enforcement, so she wanted to donate and on his behalf, in his memory. And we always thank through Facebook. We have 2,400 and something, and we like to acknowledge that, in memory of, because that person means so much to that loved one, So in memory of PayPal, like Phil said, we'll have our QR code, our brochures, and then at our Dining for Heroes, that's a great opportunity for people, whether they stay for 30 minutes or an hour, they can come and donate. And
how often do you have those?
what we're striving for this year is to have 2 a month.
Okay.
Because, like I said, we want to have all these little communities that want to have their Dining for Heroes and have their officers participate, whether it's 2 or 3 in that community. Their pride to be able to do that. So that's what we're striving for, and that'll keep Officer Alejandro very busy. I know, but we try to have at least a POF representative at each one.
Okay.
But we know anybody can do that. Anyone can do that. We have the program that I send to them with all the details and everything. And we have a video. From Cleburne that was great, excellent, on our website.
Yeah, and if you'll share some of those with me, then I can come play them on
okay.
Hometown Heroes and some other things to give y'all some more visibility. But our time's just about up today. But we appreciate you so much being
Yes.
here, and we always want to remember and never forget Rick Beretta, whose end to watch was February 14th, 1997. And that's from that tragedy has come this organization that helps so many people. And this week, on Friday, the 27th, at our place, and that's at 915 West Debbie in Mansfield, from 8 to 2, is Dining for Heroes. So make it a point, if you're out in the Mansfield area, if you just want to drive to Mansfield, to go by and eat, because part of the money you're going to pay is going to come back to the POAF, and also you'll get to be waited and served on by some of the greatest peace officers in the Metroplex. So,
And the owner, Benji, is very, very.
because he has several
supportive.
places, doesn't he?
Well, there's another,
Is
his
that
brother, Our Place
okay.
in Burleson.
Burleson.
And we've had a Dining
Okay.
for Heroes there,
Okay.
and probably will again this year, but he supports law enforcement all the way. Benji's a great, in fact, he was the one that was buying the formula for when they had a shortage of formula. He was
Wow.
buying them by the cases and helping the mothers.
But go to the website, POAF.org, and read more about it. And for all the outlying communities out in the 254 counties, these are your connections. Whenever you have an officer that's injured or needs some help, just go to POAF and get with Maria and Phil. And we just appreciate y'all being here today. And I look forward to doing a lot more in the future with your organization, because I really love it, and I love y'all a lot too. And y'all are special people. So,
Thank you for having us.
well, you're welcome. It's been a real honor.
Yes, it has.
And we couldn't do it without Larry and his classic auto detail. He does the best auto detail work, not on a rainy day.
Not on a rainy day.
Rainy day, it's going to be inside today, isn't it, huh? But thank you for your support, and thank you for all you do for your community. And thank you guys back there in the back for
Yeah.
running the show, and we appreciate you all too. And Phil and Maria, thank you so much, and I look forward to being with y'all again soon at one of your Dining for Heroes.
God bless you.
God bless you too. And until next week, this is Rick and Larry and Phil and Maria. Y'all have a good week.
Great show.